Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. We're here to talk about healthcare with St. Peter's College and the University of Saskatchewan. So there's a really wide field here. There's tons of different programs to talk about. So in fact, I've already limited myself with just these five. We're going to be specifically talking about nursing, pre-med, pre-pharm, pre-dentistry, and pre-physical therapy, and what that looks like for you as you go through high school, your first year of university, and for some of these going up to a degree, and how to prepare for them. They're all quite different. And I'm hoping you'll learn a lot from this. So this one's a little bit different than some of our normal sessions if you've been to those. So I'll be giving you some background knowledge here. Then I'll be talking about the first year. Then we're going to actually talk about missions for all of these. So this one's a little bit different than what you might be used to if you've attended some of our previous sessions or watched the previous recordings. So just an introduction. My name is Matthew Washkowski. I am part of our student services team at St. Peter's College, along with Crystal Shutko. We work with students to begin their USASK degree, and as such, work with USASK regularly to ensure you are transitioning properly and are set up for success. You can start all these programs at St. Peter's College, and then you end up transitioning to the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon or another site. We are affiliated with the University of Saskatchewan, but just be aware I am not an official representative of any of these colleges. I'm only a representative of St. Peter's College, and I have a lot of knowledge about the University of Saskatchewan as we work closely with them. So going off into nursing here, normally I'd list, again, a little bit different. I'd list the reasons why you want to go into it. You probably have a good idea now. I mean, it's an in-demand job. It has a good salary. Lots of like societal respect, et cetera, et cetera. Something to kind of note here is that nursing is, we'll talk about this in a little bit. I'll give you a little teaser here. There's different locations, and you actually don't start directly out in nursing. You start somewhere else. So normally when you go to university, I guess, no, when you go to university for the first time ever at USASK, you start a direct entry college. There's 6 direct entry colleges with the University of Saskatchewan. St. Peter's College supports at least the first year, if not more, of all of these colleges. For nursing, people will typically go into arts and science. In fact, for most of these, people will typically go into arts and science, maybe kinesiology, maybe education as well. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. I'm going to just focus in on arts and science really quickly here. There's a lot of different options here. If you're thinking now you want to go into a medical field, your best bet is probably going to be a Bachelor of Arts and Science or a Bachelor of Science. You can get into some of these with any bachelor or like a Bachelor of Arts or music or whatever. Doesn't even have to be arts and science, but the majority of people typically go for some type of a science degree, and you'll see why here, probably about 10 minutes. A really common path for people is the pre-med, pre-nurse, and pre-blah, pre this is the biomedical sciences. This is kind of new with the University of Saskatchewan. So there's 4 different majors. There's biochemistry, microbiology, and immunology. There's cellular, physiological, and pharmacological sciences. There's the biomedical neurosciences and the biomedical foundations. Basically, if you're thinking about going into this, you don't have to decide which one of those you want to do off the bat. They have identical, the first 2 years are identical, and they all prepare you very well for any of these programs we're talking about today. So what everyone in this lobby, I guess, Zoom lobby, is interested in the non-direct programs with the University of Saskatchewan. At least I'm assuming so, because you came to the healthcare one. So what non-direct means is you cannot start out in these. You need some university experience. It varies, which I'll talk about next slide, to go into any of these. So what the estimated time is going to look like here is what you can kind of see. So it's for some programs, well, all these programs, you need pre-professional study years required. And then you spend some additional times in that program for a total year of study. So for nursing, it's quite simple. You do 1 pre-professional year, then you do 3 years of nursing, boom, you're a nurse. For stuff like medicine, you have to do at least 4 years of pre-professional study before you actually get into it. So just be aware you're in this for the long haul. It's very likely this could go longer if you choose not to graduate on time, if you don't get in on the first admission attempt, which is common for some of these programs. So just be aware of that. If you're thinking about these programs, you are going in for the long haul here. So one thing I really recommend that people do is actually, it's good that you have an end goal. Let's look a little bit more closer in the future here. Focus on the first year. Talk about this soon. So what should you know in the first year? On that note, let's start off with nursing here. If you are in pre-nursing, you're thinking about becoming a nurse with the University of Saskatchewan, great program. You must take at least 1 year of pre-nursing. Commonly, this is arts and science. It will involve a variety of sciences, so chemistry, statistics, biology, some social sciences, some humanities, and electives. Something that's new, just to be aware of, is something called the Casper test. This is like a skills and ability and critical thinking and like empathy type of test. It's a personality test, essentially. Just because you get great grades doesn't mean that, you know, you're the type of person who might be a nurse. If you just don't if you have no empathy at all, even though you have great grades, yeah, maybe you shouldn't look into being a nurse, you know. But vice versa is true. You might not have great grades, but you might have a lot of the skills and leadership qualities and ability to operate under pressure that they look for in nurses. So that's why this has been brought in. It's something brand new. I don't have any stats for you because we haven't had a year where people have gone in with this test yet. You will want to work for a high average. You will want to complete classes by April. You should be prepared to move if you're thinking just for pre-nursing. Just so you're aware, like I said, there's 5 campuses. You might not have a choice, and you should have a plan B. It's not a bad idea to start for both nutrition and nursing to start looking at maybe start it in the summer semester. If you're graduating high school, maybe take a class over July and August. You know, lighten up your load here for the fall and the winter as in your first year, because you're going to be taking, especially in the fall, a bit of a tougher class load. It's going to be 2 or 3 classes with labs. So that's even more of a commitment. For pre-nutrition, again, it's a little bit heavier than pre-nursing, just so you're aware. There's a little bit more biology, physics, math, and chemistry. There's still that same Casper test. You should still be working for an average. You should still have a plan B. You should still complete those classes by April. And then if you're a pre-med, pharm, dentistry, physical therapy student, it will take more than 1 year to be able to apply into this, to be able to be accepted into this. So you will need a plan B. You will definitely want a plan B, because I'll show you the entry statistics a little bit later on. Of course, not everyone gets in on that first year. A lot of people might not, you know, once you get to your second or third or fourth year, you might realize that, do I want to be in school for the next 10 years? Not everyone does. You might meet all the grade averages and whatnot, but you might realize that you just don't want to. Most of these programs are very heavily restricted to Saskatchewan residents. Reason that's the case is because it gets a considerable government funding. So of course they want those people who are from Saskatchewan to stay in Saskatchewan. They don't want someone coming from, like, you know, another country, or someone coming from a different province, or at least not the majority of these students, you know, taking our government subsidized education and then going elsewhere. We're in Saskatchewan. We want and need doctors, nurses, dentists, etc. There's different admission requirements, so I'll be able to talk about this. Something to note, I don't have it listed up there, is you do need to be a resident of Saskatchewan for all these programs that you see up there. So if you're an international student right now, or if you're a permanent resident, don't worry. You can, if you just do your undergraduate studies with the University of Saskatchewan, and as long as you live in Saskatchewan during that time, you'll be okay. I can give you more specifics if you're interested in them. Just reach out to us, but just don't panic too much about that. So what should you do in your first year? The best thing you can kind of do for your study skills is talk to your professors. You need to make sure you understand the admission requirements, and you really need to make sure you focus on study skills. Study skills will get you through university and get you through well. So, you know, talk to your professors, complete stuff early, make a schedule, follow it. It's pretty basic stuff. That tends to be the biggest thing that most people struggle with in university. Just because you're a 90 student in high school, you know, like the average first year marks in university typically around those mid 60s. So just be aware of that. Your average will go down. Doesn't mean that you're dumb or anything like that. It's just, that's university. You will want to be realistic here and develop a plan, especially if you're looking at those pre-med stuff. If you know you struggle with math, for example, and you have to take a math class, you should probably start going to office hours early, maybe seek a tutor early, and, you know, just address that. If you know you're going to struggle with something, be proactive, be smart, be realistic. And, you know, make sure you really understand the requirements that a lot of these degrees are looking for. You know, if you're not good at biology or chemistry, you don't like those subjects, these may not be the programs you're going to enjoy, because they're quite biology, chemistry, anatomy, biochemistry heavy. And just something to be aware of is don't set your identity as, oh, I'm gonna get into nursing, I'm gonna be a doctor, I'm gonna be a dentist. Don't let that be your identity. It's good to have an end goal. Just be aware, for every 10 students I see who plan to enter one of those areas, excluding nursing, only one gets in. Part of that's some of them, they just don't have the grades. Some of them just realize, I don't like this. Some of them drop out. Some of them, there's all types of different reasons, but just be aware. I see a lot of grade 12s coming in here, like really high anxiety, like, they've developed their entire identity around, I must be this. Don't worry about it. Just take it one step at a time. Focus on your first year. Don't let your end goal consume your identity. Focus on the steps to get there. So I'm going to be talking about the steps to actually get there now, the admissions. Going to nursing here, we're really popular for pre-nursing students because their words, not mine. They feel like they do better here because of the small class sizes and the state-of-the-art labs and being able to talk to the professors. But really, in your first year, you're gonna be completing 10 classes in biology, chemistry, stats, nutrition, psychology, indigenous studies, English, social studies, and some electives. You have 10 classes you have to complete before you can become a nurse. You can technically you can technically be deficient in them. Don't be deficient unless you're a 90s university student, because that will greatly affect your average. So how it actually works, when so there's 600 people who apply for like 300 seats. So 1 in 2 people get in. How do they figure out who those 295 people are going to be? Well, 60% of it is based on your average. So previously it used to be all average. This year's different. So we don't actually know how this is going to affect it. So 60% is based on your grades. 40% is based on that personality test that I talked about before. This Casper test will change these entry statistics. So what I'm telling you right now will somewhat be a little irrelevant. There are different averages for each city. Like I said, the cities you can go to for nursing are Saskatoon, Regina, Prince Albert, La Ronge, and La Crosse. That typically tends to be the choices of people's preference. Not to pick on any cities or anything, that just tends to be where most of the students want to go. So that said, Saskatoon then has the highest average. Traditionally, pre-Casper, you would need at least a 78% average to have a fair chance at being admitted into the Saskatoon campus. But something like Regina, that was more like 75%. Prince Albert, La Ronge, La Crosse, those were a little bit lower, maybe something like 72, 73%. Overall, if they take those 295 seats, the average tends to be around 75. If you just want a nursing seat, you should aim for a 75% average to get into the college, to have a good chance of getting into the college. If you're like, if Saskatoon is the be all end all for you, you should make sure you get at least an 80%, if not more. And like I said, Casper will completely change this. There might be some students with 65% averages who just ace that Casper test and get into the campus of their choice. We don't need to talk about that. Oh, sorry, folks. I just completely went back to the I'm pressing the wrong arrow. Apologies, folks. So these are the classes you need to take, just so you're aware. You can find these on the website and give these to you. If you're watching this on a recording, just pause it and you'll be able to look at it. Nutrition admissions, you have to complete 10 classes, a little bit more bio and chemistry heavy. There's 60% of this. How you get in, how do they choose their students? There's 72 seats available for Saskatchewan each year. There's 24 available seats, 51 applicants. So basically 1 seat for every 2 applicants. 60% of it's based on your grades, 30% of it's based on that Casper test, 10% of it's based on an interview. You can get more details later. I can give those to you as well, but just so you're aware, the admissions averages last year hovered between 70.6 and 92.65. So the person with the lowest average was at that 70.6. Person with the highest was at that's 92.65. The person you probably want at least a 75 average, to be completely honest with you. Most people usually do have a 75% average. And if you're not accepted, you can improve your average or your Casper test. Same for nursing. For pharmacy, a little bit different. Instead of 1 year or 10 classes, you're now in 2 years or 20 classes. So you need at least 20 classes in all those programs up there. So again, very bio and chemistry heavy. Competitive entry, again, it's the same formula as nutrition there. The difference here, though, is that there's 72 seats available in Saskatchewan and 140 applicants. So again, 1 seat for every 2 people. That's a pretty strong formula you're going to see here. The admission averages were between 71%, lowest person, 94%, highest person. Most students have over a 75% average to get a decent chance at getting into the College of Pharmacy. I don't know how someone did this, but some just Chad of a person was admitted in with 1 year of university. So they were clearly taking extensive summer classes and fall and winter classes. So for physical therapy, ironically, this is probably one of, if not the hardest one to get into for Saskatchewan residents. So you need a 4-year bachelor degree. That's it. It can generally be any degree. That said, it does have a few prerequisites, just 3 or 4 prerequisite courses. And those do require some prerequisites, which require biology as a prerequisite. So again, people going into like kinesiology or something like one of those biomedical sciences, will fare better here because they'll have those naturally built into their degree. But there are people who like in drama and stuff who can get into these if they plan their electives correctly. Competitive entry, they need at least a 75% average. They use 60 credit units for that. So I believe that's your 2 best years is what they'll use. So how it works is their formula is a little bit different. Normally it's like, here's how many seats it is for this one. They give just the top 100 applicants. So the top 100 applicants based on their average, then do that Casper exam and submit a personal statement. So of those 100 people, it's based on 60% average, 40% Casper. They put that into the formula, boom, there's your list of 40 people who get in. There's around 160 to 200 applicants every year. So normally there's 1 seat for every 2 applicants. Now we're getting into the where that's no longer the case. So now it's way more competitive. The minimum average that someone was let in on was an 83%. So that person aced that Casper test. The average percentage was 89%. So this is, to be completely blunt, this is probably the hardest program to get into, harder than medicine, harder than dentistry, from my opinion. Going on to dentistry here, you need to have at least 3 years of university. Most people generally just go straight for the degree. You'll need a couple of different prerequisite classes there, which again, if you go into like one of those biomedical sciences or kinesiology, you'll probably have this, but you can get in with whatever. So you need at least a 75% average. They use the 2 best years. How they actually weigh this in, that formula they use. So 65% of this, 2/3 of this is based on your academic average. That's the weighting behind that. Then there's something called the dental aptitude test, the DAT. That is 15% of your weighting. Then there's interview, that's 20%. Now you also take the Casper exam here, but this one has no weighting. This is used for statistical purposes only. I'm going to guess in the next couple of years, they might consider this, but right now they just want to see, how are people scoring as they get in? Is there a consistent measure there? There are 22 Saskatchewan seats available each year. There are 50 Saskatchewan applicants each year. There are 100, not 100 seats. There are more seats available. I'm just talking about just Saskatchewan specified ones right now. The minimum admissions average last year was 81.2%. The average admissions average was 83.4%. So you get those low to mid 80s, you're probably doing okay here. Of note here, 1/3 to 1/2 of these seats, depending on the year, goes to people who have reapplied. So a fair chunk of the people who get into this program actually went through the process and then reapplied again next year. The dental aptitude test focuses on a couple things. It focuses on your knowledge of the natural sciences, biology, chemistry, etc., your perceptual ability test, and a reading comprehension test. There's a 4th component, a manual dexterity test. That's how steady are your hands. Can you complete this task? Yada, yada. USASK does not use the dexterity test, just so you're aware. But that it kind of makes sense why they have something like that, because you're a dentist, you should have steady hands. Going on to medicine here. It's a pretty simple requirement. You just need a degree, a 4-year degree. That's it. There's no official required prerequisite courses. There are people who are engineers who are, there was a drama person, there was a music person who got into this. There are, of course, some recommendations. The more, anatomy and biology and chemistry and biochemistry that the better you'll probably do on the medical school admissions test, the MCAT. So how this one works is, fun fact, your grades actually are not the be all end all here. Your grades are only 30%. 20% of it comes down to that MCAT. 50% of it is based on personal qualities, which they gather through Casper and a couple of mini interviews. So those personal qualities, they're not just looking for the quote unquote world's smartest people to become doctors. They're looking for way more than that. They're looking for great attributes, like someone who can communicate well, who's resilient, who's self-directed, who has great insight, and someone who can be teachable, who has really excellent personal skills, who has, compassion, empathy, and respect for everyone, who has the ability to lead, the ability to advocate. They're looking for like someone with integrity. So those are actually the things that they're looking for as you go through the Casper and the multiple mini interviews. So those are the biggest qualities that will help you become a doctor. So they're not just looking for the smartest people in the room or the people who know the most biology. They're looking for the best people, general, well-rounded. You have to be well-rounded here. So, play an instrument, learn a language. That will only help you with this. There's 100 seats. There's 79 seats available in Saskatchewan each year. There's 5 out of province seats. There's 10 Aboriginal admission seats for people within Saskatchewan, and 6 diversity and social accountability admissions for within Saskatchewan. So for example, that might be, you grew up very low income for the last couple of years. I see I'm almost running out of time here, so I'm going to speed it up. There's 300 applicants every year for about 95 seats. So just so you're aware, it's quite heavy competition. Minimum average was 78.2%. The average admission average is 88.8%. So that's pretty much in line with that physical sciences or physical therapy. One thing I recommend for you, for those of you who are in high school, just do Bio 30, do your Chem 30, do your Physics 30, do your Foundations or Pre-Calc 30, preferably Pre-Calc, if not Calculus 30. Really recommend you Calculus 30. Physics 30 might be a requirement for some of these. It's not for all of them, but if you're looking at doing a Bachelor of Science degree, especially in the medical field, especially if you're looking at those non-direct entry programs, you'd be very intelligent if you take all the sciences and all the maths you possibly can in high school. It will only benefit you greatly. Going on to tuition here, these numbers assume 30 credits units in the fall and the winter. They're based off current numbers with the University of Saskatchewan. Most of you fall into the arts and science here. St. Peter's tuition, it's very similar. It's basically the same. You can have enough, it's a couple percent cheaper. So you have enough money to go to like Boston Pizza, order a burger. Congratulations, it's even. The biggest difference though, is that we have much lower student fees. That's just because, you don't pay for a bus pass out here. You don't pay for a newspaper, stuff like that. Typically, our students will complete years 1 and 2, or basically whenever they leave St. Peter's College, with less debt. And that's pretty simple. It's pretty obvious why that's the case, because we have way more scholarships. You get to keep your USASK scholarships, and our fees are quite a bit lower, even though the tuition's the same. So our students do get to double our scholarship pool. Oops. So why do students choose St. Peter's College? Pretty simple. We have an average class size of 16 people, in-person classes. I mean, that's 30 times smaller than what you're going to get elsewhere. There's additional scholarships here. So our students on average, people who apply for our scholarships get an additional $1,800. So if you win $3,000 at USASK, you win $2,000 here. Congratulations, you're at $5,000. So of course our students leave with less debt. It's a really friendly environment. So you have someone helping you out every step of the way. You don't have to deal with a robot, press 1 to talk to this person. There's a person helping you out. You're not a face in the crowd. You can transition to university. There's a really low dropout rate here, is what we find. When we look at the provincial and national averages, our students tend to do quite well. Again, probably just because, they have those smaller class sizes. They have someone helping them out all the time. We offer over 70 programs. So there's a whole bunch you can start your degree in here, both for U of S, U of R, or other institutions. If you want more information, give us a call, email us, go to our website, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You can just reach out to us, come for a tour, and you will be very, very happy. We do have an open house as well. It's in-person open house. It's following all COVID-19 regulations. So if you're really interested in this, I really recommend apply now, register now. You will not have the opportunity later because it's first come, first serve. We have capacity limits due to COVID-19. That's what I have for you guys. I know you have to get back to your classes here. If you do have a question, give me that phone number, give me a call. I'm at that phone number right there at the bottom. You'll talk to me directly. But otherwise, thanks for coming to our session.